In this video, I'll be demonstrating how to tie a figure eight follow-through. A figure eight follow-through looks exactly like our figure eight on a bite. There's not a whole lot of difference here other than they're just tied differently. You would want to use a figure eight follow-through on elements such as the Giant's Ladder, where we don't want carabiners rubbing up against equipment because they can potentially open on their own. And you also might use it on some of our other high ropes elements where maybe we don't have enough carabiners to tie in that handrail line on ships passing, and instead you just want to tie in the handrail line to that eye bolt up at the top of the pole instead of using a steel carabiner. So this is an option for some of those. You could also use it to tie ropes on for low course activities as well, instead of using carabiners and pulling out more equipment. So that's when we might use those. This is going to tie or end up very similarly to all of our other knots when we're inspecting them to make sure they're tied appropriately. We want to make sure they're in the nice straight line from tail to our carabiner loop. We want to make sure that all of our ends are stacked appropriately. So we have 1, 2, 1, 2. This looks great. We want to make sure our two ropes that are feeding through here are parallel, or our railroad tracks are running parallel. No twists. And then I'm also going to check to make sure that my carabiner loop, in this case it's going to be our tie-in loop, and our carabiner loop will wrap around our harness purple loop. So that's there, and then we have our tail, and both of these are just about perfect. So there we go. To start tying our figure eight follow through, I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the figure eight on a bite. I'm going to measure out my rope first, and it's about an arm's length. And then I'm going to tie just a regular figure eight, just a plain figure eight. So I created a bite at the top, and then I'm going to the left, around to the back, towards the right, and I'm going to take my tail and put it through the top of this 8. And I don't want to tighten this up too much or it'll be very difficult to get the rest of my rope through. With my tail, I'm going to just follow through the path that I just came from, kind of like with our water knot. And I'm going to leave, as I do that, I'm going to make sure to leave a loop up at the top. That's where I would tie in to a participant harness. So as I go through, I'm putting this back right down the direction that I came, and I'm going to follow those train tracks, those railroad tracks, all the way through until the end. On this one, I didn't have quite enough rope to get this through as well as I want it to. So I'm going to try again to make a better one here in just a second. But that was my first attempt at this one. And that's kind of what it looks like to start. So let's try that again with just a little bit more rope. Sometimes these can be a little difficult to figure out how much you need. So again, here's I made a bite, and I'm making my figure eight. There's my figure eight. And then I'm going to follow back around, leaving my tie-in loop up here at the top. Now, as you're following through, you can start on either side. I like to go the path of least resistance, the way that's going to be the most simple to get through, so that I don't end up twisting my railroad tracks as I go along. And then I won't have to spend as much time dressing my knot at the end. All right, there we go. So that's my figure eight follow through. I'm going to check real quick to make sure that it meets my requirements. It's in a straight line, so it's stacked properly. If 1, 2 up here, 1, 2 down here. all of my tracks are parallel. My tail is a little long. However, on our Giant's ladder, when we're tying in on a tie-in, sometimes it's okay to have a little bit extra of a tail, just so you can be sure that if our knot is rubbing up against the Giant's ladder, that our knot doesn't let our tail slip through. So this is actually an okay knot. Maybe a little long of a tail, but we're good. So there we go. That is our figure 8 follow through.